It's my pleasure to introduce Dave and Jennifer Allen. Welcome to Mustang Church of the Nazarene. We're glad you guys are here.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
How long have you guys been in ministry?
Well, this is our first assignment, and we're working on completing our 4th year here in South Africa. And so this was the first thing. Before this, we were private individuals doing our different areas of professional work back in the States in Washington State. So our home churches are Grandview, Washington, and Yakima, West Valley. We both lived and worked in those two areas for about 12 years, and so that's kind of where we still call home, and that's the people that still claim to know us. So that's where we go back to.
What is it like being over there? I mean, tell me your experience of serving over there and what can we do to help you?
Living where we are here in Johannesburg is maybe a lot more like what it would be for people from large cities. I know there's not a ton of large cities in Oklahoma, but this is a big city. There's in the general area between 15 and 20 million people. And so we live in a pretty large urban setting, although we are on the outskirts. We're in a smaller suburb of the city, but we live, so it looks in many ways like a first world country, but it does not behave like a first world country in a lot of ways. And so we experience kind of the good and the predictable, along with the chaos and the unpredictability of life here. And so there's a lot that people would recognize, and there's a lot that would be totally and completely foreign.
Tell me about your family. How many kids do you have? What grades are they in? We'd like to know that.
We have 2 children. The oldest is Bethany. She's 10 years old and she's in 4th grade. And then we have a son, Max, who is 7 years old and he's in 1st grade. And they're both in a local school, and they learn in English, Afrikaans, and Zulu.
Hi, my name is Matt. I'm 7 years old and I live in Africa.
Hello, my name is Bethany. I live in South Africa. I'm 10 years old, and I'd like to count for you to 10 in Zulu. Kunye kubili kutatu kune kuhlanu isitupa isikhombisa isishiyagalombili isishiyagalolunye ishumi. Thank you.
I'm learning to speak Afrikaans. I'm gonna count to 10 in Afrikaans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
My favorite African animal is a leopard because they love climbing trees and they sneak up on their prey very stealthily.
My favorite animal is the dung beetle because it's like this really cool beetle that walks on its 2 front legs, rolling a big pile of poop in a round thing. Fun fact about the dung beetle: it lays its babies inside the dung so they can eat the dung.
The Zulu people are famous for making clothing, mainly beadwork. This is a Zulu necklace, this is a Zulu headband, and these are Zulu bracelets. These are also Zulu sandals.
One of my favorite things are climbing trees.
What part of Africa are you in? Can you tell us what region that's part of?
So we live in the country South Africa, and the city is Johannesburg.
Can you tell me what brought you in to be in missionaries and what what was that first step in making that happen?
Well, the first step of that, I suppose, would have predated actually serving when we were having dialogue with the Lord about what would be the best way to use our particular skills. We'd both been asking those kinds of dangerous questions. Lord, is this the best that we can do now? And as it turned out, the Lord could see a little bigger than we could. And I have a relatively unique mix of gifts. I have a ministerial training that came later and an accounting background that was before. And so, actually, as it turns out, the global church was looking for somebody who had both a ministry training as well as a finance and accounting background. And they came and found me and said, "We need somebody to lead stewardship and finance in Africa. How does that sound to you?" And so that's how we ended up here. It was somewhat, to us, it seems like out of nowhere, because we did not have in any way our eyes on Africa. In terms of serving somewhere, we suppose that as the going through the missionary evaluation process that every missionary in the Church of the Nazarene goes through, when we indicated some interest and information, we kind of had our own ideas about where we might go and even which of us would use the gifts to serve as a missionary. But as it turns out, God called the whole family and we all served together. And so we ended up here through really the invitation of the global church and the regional director here, who is Philly Chombo.
We sure appreciate you guys. Can you tell us what your email address is so they can contact you if they have any questions or?
Yeah, we love to communicate with people by email. We also send out a newsletter. So if anyone would like to email us, we would be glad to add them to our newsletter. We send out updates about every 3 months, just with what we're doing, what ministry is looking like in Africa, and prayer requests. So we'd love to communicate with you. And if you would like to join us, you can email us at D for David, J for Jennifer, Allen, Allen, 8501 at hotmail.com.
Is there anything in particular we can help pray for? Or you guys need any supplies or equipment? What can we do to help you?
Well, thank you for that invitation. We live here with the assistance of prayer, and there are actually probably two main things that are on our hearts and minds right now that we would love additional prayer on. The first one is our ongoing safety here. This is a fairly dangerous place in the world, and in particular, of late, there's been a real substantial uptick in crime. It's violent crime. So there are parts of this where, because of my role, I have to travel a fair amount throughout Africa to go review the different field areas, to see their projects and to do audits for them. I'm gone a lot. I just got back from an almost 10-day trip a couple days ago, and while I'm gone, I can't watch out for my family. And we have some protections in place, but we would love to know that there are people praying for the loving hand of God to watch over my family while I'm gone. So that's first and dearest on my heart. I can't do what I do and be living here without their safety and their ability to feel like they can move around and thrive and be a part of the life that they have here. So that would be number one. Number two would be that we have, maybe as some know, if some were at the general, had the amazing experience to see the second Director of Africa, now promoted and voted into a general superintendent role. So Dr. Chombo is leaving. He actually started September 1st in the GMC. And so we are in the process of a RD transition. We are searching and praying over candidates and hoping that as the new person comes on board, that we will be able to provide support and help to that person and to be able to aim Africa at what God's here at the church in Africa next. And so that's mainly to go urban and to go north, to head into places where the church is not already strongly established. And so there's hard work ahead, and we need a good leader and somebody who is ready to take on the challenge. And so we would love for your people's prayer as we seek for God's best and who to ask to come serve.
Serving in that capacity is just an awesome ministry. We again thank you for your time and your support, and
Suppose that one of the things that is just absolutely pure gold, no matter if it's Christmas time or any time, that we can't get here is our bags of chocolate chips, like the Toll House chocolate chips. We love those things. They're not able to be acquired here, and so those are precious, and we measure them out. And so that would be a taste of home that we can share as a family. That would be great. Little things that like our kids are probably like a lot of kids elsewhere. They love Legos. Both of them are big fans of being able to build and play with Legos. And Bethany is very much into the little live pets. Since we can't have an actual pet here, she wants little robotic ones that will obey her every command and things like that. So those would be sweet, cute thoughts from home if those are on your guys' hearts. And then I suppose for the adults, we still utilize Amazon and iTunes for things, and so gift cards to give us flexibility to get things that we can ship to somebody to bring here or that would be able to appear here. Those would be wonderful thoughts. And so if you guys are wanting to think through any of those kinds of things, that would be right on track for what our family would love. So my role as the regional finance coordinator is that I've been asked not only to oversee the finances of Africa, but to also train pastors and leaders on how to effectively utilize and teach their own people the principles of stewardship and how to live a full life in the presence of God. And so I get to be in front of all sorts of different groups of people. Different parts of the continent, or they feel very different in terms of how the people are. But probably one of my favorites was in Malawi. I went to it was their very first PALCON that they had for Malawi. So there was all of the pastors and leaders for the church in Malawi all gathered together. We went out to a nearby college kind of an environment where there was a big hall and there was 300 or so people there. And as the thing picked up, I was really curious what time things were going to wrap up. It got to 10 o'clock. The lights went off in the whole country. They have lots of power outages there. So they were mid-song. They didn't even blink. They just kept praising. There was monkeys on the building making a racket. There were people going. I think they were still preaching at midnight. And I got to, during one of those sessions, teach some of those dear people who are speaking 4 different languages or so about what looking at money could look like in Malawi and how to help their people in a place where there's very high levels of poverty to understand that their participation and cooperation in what God's doing is not something that they overlook, that their people are powerful and that they can be part of what God is doing in Malawi, and to try to bring encouragement, but also to teach them biblically what it looks like to do stewardship. But that whole week, it was just power would go out and then they'd fire up generators, or sometimes not. They just go a cappella. And that thing went all day and all night, every day. Those people had amazing endurance. And so it was really fun to worship with people who thought that it was great on a Wednesday night at midnight to be, listening to a 2 or 3 hour sermon. And so it was both humbling and fun, and definitely quite a memorable experience.
Well, thanks again, guys, for serving and being in Johannesburg and just reaching out to the people there and minister to them. So we definitely appreciate you, and